I'm going to try to keep it under 4 minutes, but one, I'm French, so it's very difficult to do that. So I'm going to try to time myself. I really thought about talking about the meaning of life, but last time I was at Manolis's birthday. Between that time and now, I think I've deeply discovered the meaning of life. I think every day I think about the meaning of life. I've had even the thought that in some ways the best gift my parents gave me is to give me the experience of escaping a war zone and becoming a refugee, because it has given me the chance to appreciate every moment. And for me, the meaning of life is the ability to have a community. And this place, MIT, is the only place I've ever felt home. So thank you for having me here. So I am going to talk about something else, which actually is related. It's talking about AI. And one of the things that I wanted to talk about first is how many people in the room know the history of the British Army between 1912 and 1926? Okay, nobody can fact check me, so that all works out really well. Who's really a buff about the invention of the military tank? Good. So you can check.
This is MIT, not Harvard.
All right. Actually, this is very MIT. You're right. Because I'm about to quote Rebecca Henderson, who quit MIT to go to Harvard. Ooh. So the thing I wanted to really talk about as we're thinking about AI and the College of AI, I talk a lot about this notion that AI is actually an architectural innovation. And to explain architectural innovation, I ran for several years an AI lab in a large company, and it's really hard to explain architectural innovation. For one, Rebecca Henderson's paper was written in the 1990s. It's an academic paper written by economists. It seems like I'm the only one who reads for fun papers by economists and think they're the coolest people on the planet. And I haven't found a lot of people in corporate America that enjoys reading those things for fun. But recently I found this really great analogy of what is an architectural innovation. And I think that's the fundamental piece we're missing about AI. And I hope that this new college not only brings ethics, philosophy, brings a lot of my friends who are economists, and also really think about how to take large organizations. I recently spent some time at NASA helping them think about this. And the reason is architectural innovation is really hard. So why is it hard? So let's talk about the British Army. So in the British Army, and I'll be super quick, but if anybody's interested, please come see me and I can talk all about it, even though I'm not from Harvard. In 1912, some guy came up with this really cool design of a small tank, the medium D tank. It was an awesome tank because he wanted to be really fast and he could really do something exciting, except nobody could see what to do with it. This guy named Fuller, British Army guy, saw it and figured out this was really cool. It could go, and the next time there would be a war, actually destroy the German army at its brain, because it could move far and fast, and it could really take by surprise the German army. And he called it Plan 1919. And that plan seemed really awesome, except the problem was at the time, the British Army was organized into two organizations: the cavalry, that was working really fast for mobility, but that was on horses, and the artillery that had strength. And the problem with the tank is it kind of fit between both. So the idea was, it's such a good idea, why did the British Army struggle to adopt it? So the obvious answer often is that people are idiots. And I think that's a really bad explanation. That's a bad explanation to justify why large organizations run out of life and don't have any meaning. In fact, at the time, people were finding the way to make mobility better was to increase by a factor of 10 the amount of food they were giving to horses, because that's what mobility looked like. So that idea basically didn't get adopted. This guy kept pushing for it, but we couldn't figure out which organizational unit it should go into, whether it was the cavalry or the artillery. And the reason that's interesting is that everybody understood what a tank was, everyone understood what it could do, the pieces looked familiar, but the way it had to get integrated into the army was different. That was the architectural innovation. That's what people struggled with. And it's obviously more complicated than that, because obviously there were public opinions, and so on. By 1926, Fuller got his big break. Brilliant innovator, finally got the role to roll this group, except his job, which often happens when brilliant people graduate from MIT, they become great scientists, they join a big company, and in order to make them, reward them, they give them the management job. And that's exactly what happened to Fuller. He became a manager, and he hated all this responsibility he had. All he wanted to do was to deploy the tank. That was his baby. That's what he cared about. So of course, he got grumpy, he upset people, he got let go, somehow he got radicalized. And the long story short is his idea did make it to market. At Adolf Hitler's 50th birthday, there was a man sitting there watching the large parade of the winning battalion of tanks, and that was Mr. Fuller. So obviously that's the bad side of architectural innovation, but I often use this story when I talk to large company leads to try to help them understand why we don't understand AI, why I do not believe we're going to get the kind of breakthrough innovation. It's because every large organization, starting with this university, to every company has to think about how to reorganize itself, to think about its implication from the beginning of inception to the execution to the industrialization of that technology and its implication. And I think that's a really hard concept to grapple. And I thought this example perhaps could show that, and that together we could find the future meaning of AI. Thank you.